justice. The dead do not whisper to Maaman Brigette, they demand. And when wrong has been done, she remembers. Her fire is not rage without reason. It is fire of correction. The fire that burns sickness out of flesh. The fire that turns curses back on those who earn them. The fire that protects the innocent and punishes the cruel. She heals with the same hands she destroys with, but justice is not gentle. When she mounts a body, her voice becomes sharp, raw, unfiltered. She swears, she laughs, she tells the truth without apology. Those who approach her with respect receive protection, healing, and strength. Those who mock her, exploit the dead, or harm the powerless learn quickly why the cemetery is not a place of weakness. Maaman Brigette stands between worlds, feet planted among bones, head crowned with fire. She is proof that death does not belong to fear, that spirits remember, that injustice does not escape consequence. And when the living forget, when the powerful believe they are untouched, when crimes are buried with bodies, Maaman Brigette walks the grave at night, igniting candles that cannot be blown out, because the dead are never silent, and she is always listening. Graves with fire. When the drums fall silent and the earth is freshly turned, she arrives, not from the sky, not from the sea, from the grave itself. Maaman Brigette walks where the dead are laid, where names are carved into stone and forgotten by the living. She is the keeper of the cemetery, the one who knows every grave by touch, every bone by memory. Fire follows her steps, not to destroy, but to purify. She laughs loudly because death does not frighten her. She drinks, she curses, she dances among the tombs, because grief must breathe, or it rots the soul. Maaman Brigette is the wife of Baron Samedi, but she is no shadow to him. Where he opens the door, she decides what happens next. She listens to the dead, to the woman who was beaten and buried in silence, to the child whose name was never spoken again, to the man whose blood was spilled without justice. The dead do not whisper to Maaman Brigette, they demand. And when wrong has been done, she remembers. Her fire is not rage without reason. It is fire of correction. The fire that burns sickness out of flesh. The fire that turns curses back on those who earn them. The fire that protects the innocent and punishes the cruel. She heals with the same hands she destroys with, but justice is not gentle. When she mounts a body, her voice becomes sharp, raw, unfiltered. She swears, she laughs, she tells the truth without apology. Those who approach her with respect receive protection, healing, and strength. Those who mock her, exploit the dead, or harm the powerless learn quickly why the cemetery is not a place of weakness. Maaman Brigette stands between worlds, feet planted among bones, head crowned with fire. She is proof that death does not belong to fear, that spirits remember, that injustice does not escape consequence. And when the living forget, when the powerful believe they are untouched, when crimes are buried with bodies, Maaman Brigette walks the grave at night, igniting candles that cannot be blown out, because the dead are never silent, and she is always listening. The Daughters of Mara, the final trial for the Buddha as he sat beneath the Bodhi tree. Now, these three daughters all worked in the domains of seduction, disruption, and emotional manipulation. And their most famous target was, of course, Siddhartha Gautama. Their mission was tied to their father's force. He had already tried storms, demons, armies of fear, and none of them had moved him. So he sent something that was far more precise, and these were his daughters. because no warrior is undefeated until he has defeated himself. Now he sent first Tanha, who was thirst, and she was not aggressive, she was not loud. She becomes everything Siddhartha ever loved. She is comfort, memory, the warmth of the palace that he had left behind. She reminds him of what it is to have pleasure without shame. She whispers of reunion. She offers relief from the severity of awakening. And her weapon is longing. But the Siddhartha Buddha does not react to this. He watches the feeling rise and pass, and Tanha fades away. And then there is Raga, who is the flame. And Raga does not whisper, she burns. She dances before him with this radiant beauty. She shifts form. She is youthful, divine, cosmic. She magnifies sensation. She tries to awaken not memory, but hunger. She is passion without restraint. She is attachment disguised as devotion. But Siddhartha sees the chain hidden inside her embrace. He does not recoil. He does not engage. He remains still, and Raga cannot bind what does not grasp. So she dissolves. Then comes Arati, who is discontent, and she does not seduce. She mocks. What are you doing here? This is pointless. You are wasting your life. She attacks discipline itself. She sends boredom, restlessness, irritation, doubt. The quiet voice that sabotages commitment. But Siddhartha does not argue with her. He does not defend himself. He remains still. And without reaction, Arati has no fuel. And she disappears. When all the three fail, their father demands proof of witness. And Siddhartha touches the earth, and the ground itself bears witness. And at that moment, Mara and his daughters lose their hold. Not because they are destroyed, but because they are all understood.
Record Moke. La Katrina. Mama Brigitte. 3000 BCE. Region. Akan regions of West Africa. Event. Early Akan belief systems define death as a guided transition rather than a final ending. Meaning. Death is understood as movement between realms. It requires oversight and authority. Consequence. The foundation is established for Moke, later known as Amoki, as a guardian of souls. 2800 BCE. Region. Akan cultural sphere of West Africa. Event. Funerary customs emphasize judgment, order, and ritual preparation. Meaning. The dead are evaluated before entering the ancestral realm. Consequence. Moke becomes associated with moral accountability and spiritual law. 2500 BCE. Region. West Africa. Event. Death rituals incorporate symbolic barriers and thresholds. Meaning. Passage into the afterlife is conditional, not automatic. Consequence. Moke's role solidifies as guardian of the boundary between life and death. 2200 BCE. Region. Akan oral tradition. Event. Stories describe a female authority presiding over the dead. Meaning. Death governance is feminized and tied to balance rather than violence. Consequence: Moke is remembered as impartial, feared, and respected. 2000 BCE. Region: Akan societies of West Africa. Event: Death is framed as continued participation in community life. Meaning: ancestors remain present and influential among the living. Consequence: Moke's authority expands from gatekeeper to regulator of ancestral continuity. 1800 BCE. Region: West African belief systems. Event: Death becomes associated with protection rather than punishment. Meaning: the afterlife is seen as refuge, not exile. Consequence: Moke's image shifts from fearsome enforcer to stabilizing force. 1500 BCE. Region: Akan regions of West Africa. Event: Offerings and moral preparation become central to burial rites. Meaning: conduct in life affects status in death. Consequence: Moke becomes associated with ethical remembrance and judgment. 1000 BCE. Region: West Africa. Event: Ancestral reverence intensifies across multiple societies. Meaning: death is fully integrated into daily spiritual life. Consequence: Moke's role becomes permanent within cultural structure. 500 BCE. Region: Akan oral culture. Event: Moke's imagery stabilizes through repeated oral transmission. Meaning: death is depicted as stern, orderly, and just. Consequence: her authority becomes unquestioned across generations. 500 BCE. Region: Mesoamerica. Event: indigenous cultures depict death through skeletal deities. Meaning: death is visible, cyclical, and familiar. Consequence: the symbolic groundwork for La Catrina is established. 400 CE. Region: Central Mexico. Event: death imagery becomes linked to ancestor remembrance rituals. Meaning: the dead are honored as continuing members of society. Consequence: death becomes culturally normalized. 1500 CE. Region: Mexico. Event: Spanish colonization introduces Catholic death iconography. Meaning: indigenous death traditions are suppressed but persist beneath the surface. Consequence: native symbolism adapts rather than disappears. 1600 CE. Region: Colonial Mexico. Event: indigenous and Catholic death imagery merge. Meaning: death becomes a hybrid cultural expression. Consequence: the skeletal female archetype begins to re-emerge. 1700 CE. Region: Mexico. Event: satirical skeletal figures critique social hierarchy. Meaning: death exposes equality in mortality. Consequence: the proto-La Catrina figure takes shape. 1800 CE. Region: Mexico. Event: elegant skeletal women are popularized in print art. Meaning: death mocks wealth, class, and vanity. Consequence: La Catrina becomes a recognizable cultural icon. 1900 CE. Region: Mexico. Event: Day of the Dead celebrations elevate La Catrina's role. Meaning: death is framed as remembrance rather than fear. Consequence: La Catrina becomes a national symbol. 2000 CE. Region: Global. Event: La Catrina gains international recognition. Meaning: Mexican death philosophy enters global culture. Consequence: death is reframed as memory and continuity. 1700 CE. Region: Haiti. Event: African spiritual traditions merge with European folklore under colonial conditions. Meaning: death guardianship adapts to displacement and enslavement. Consequence: Mémoire Brigitte emerges within the Gade spirits. 1800 CE. Region: Haiti. Event: Mémoire Brigitte becomes associated with cemeteries and graves. meaning she protects the dead and enforces moral order. Consequence: death becomes guarded rather than abandoned. 1900 CE. Region: Haitian Vodou tradition. Event: fire and crosses become central to Mama Brigitte's imagery. Meaning: death represents purification and protection. Consequence: she is feared by the unjust and trusted by the faithful. Late 1900 CE. Region: Western media. Event: Vodou death figures are misrepresented as malevolent. Meaning: death is falsely portrayed as evil. Consequence: Mama Brigitte's true role is obscured. 2000 CE. Region: Haiti and diaspora communities. Event: cultural reclamation corrects misrepresentation. Meaning: death goddesses are reaffirmed as protectors. Consequence: Mama Brigitte is restored as a guardian figure. Present day. Region: Global mythology studies. Event: comparative analysis of death goddesses across cultures. Meaning: death is governed, remembered, and regulated. Consequence: Moke, La Katrina, and Mama Brigitte are recognized as stabilizing forces, not villains.
The descent into Mythology. The world had ended more than once. Not as a metaphor, not as poetic exaggerations. Ages really had risen and fallen, whole civilizations wiped away, the very structure of reality reset. Like the games the gods keep replaying and never quite getting right. One age drowned in water, another burned in celestial fire, another collapsed under its own violence and greed, until the sky itself seemed tired of watching. Each age left something behind. Ruins sank, names vanishes, languages broke apart into sounds that no one remembered how to use. But there was one thing that did not disappear: the bones. They fell through time like stones dropping into deep water, settling in the lowest regions of existence, in places where memory did not soften, and endings did not apologize. This place was Mythology. Mythology was not fire and pitchforks. It was something colder. This was a world without sunlight, without birds, without the small accidental beauties that distract the living. There were mountains here that did not care if you climbed them, winds that cut like obsidian blades, and rivers that flowed only to separate, not to nourish. At the very bottom of those 9 layers of difficulty and forgetting, the bones of previous humanities rested, guarded by the Lord and Lady of Death, who were less monsters and more like the clerks of cosmic archives. Above, the gods argued. Some said, "Let the world sleep. The earth is quiet now, and this is good." Others said, "Build a new humanity, but this time make them obedient. No questions, no rebellions, no mistakes." Quetzalcoatl listened. He was the feathered serpent, a god of wind, learning, and ordered motion. He knew what silence meant. Silence after music can be beautiful. Silence after a scream can be relief. But this silence was not earned. It was just empty. A world without people, he said finally, is not balance. It is neglect. The other gods turned toward him. "So what would you propose?" one asked, not kindly. "If there is to be a new humanity," Quetzalcoatl answered, "it should not be made from nothing, as if nothing ever happened. It should be born from what already was, from the bones of those who lived before." Now this suggestion made some gods uncomfortable, because bones meant history. Bones meant continuity. Bones meant that actions had consequences that outlived empires. "Then go," the other said. "A test disguised as consent. If you believe this so strongly, you go down to Mexican and bring those bones back yourself." Now Quetzalcoatl did not posture. He did not summon armies or craft a speech about destiny. He simply agreed. And then he descended. Now the path to Metlakon is not a door you open. It is a series of places where things are taken from you, until all you have left is what you really are. Quetzalcoatl's first steps took him through a region of collapsing mountains, where stone itself moved against travelers. Peaks leaned and fell without warning, forcing him to move not with brute speed, but with anticipation and timing. The god of measured wind understood timing. He breathed, watched, and moved through the shifting stone like a serpent through tall grass. And then came the winds. Not gentle breezes. Winds made of blades. They cut at him as he moved. But the god of air did not fight wind with force. He changed the currents, redirecting some, absorbing others, letting them carve away what he did not need to carry deeper. He passed through regions of darkness so thick, it felt like walking through ink. Regions where the cries of the dead sounded like echoes under ice. Regions where distance lied. Step forward took you sideways instead. But he did not rush. Motion is not only speed, but it is also intention. Piece by piece, burden by burden, he came to the lowest level, to the heart of Metlakon. There, amid plains of ash and scattered bone, stood the Lord and Lady of Death. They were not dripping with gore. They did not wave arms dramatically. They watched him with the steady patience of beings who have seen every living thing arrive eventually. "Why have you come here, Quetzalcoatl?" the Lord of Death asked. His voice did not roar. It weighed. "I have come for the bones," Quetzalcoatl said. "To decorate your temples?" the lady asked. "No." "To build an army that cannot die?" the Lord asked. "No." "Then why?" they said together. Quetzalcoatl answered without pause. "So that a new humanity can rise, not from empty command, but from memory. They will be born of what already lived and ended. They will carry that inside them, even though they do not know." The Lord and Lady of Death exchanged a look that mortals would have missed. It was not anger, it was calculations. "You may have the bones," the Lord said, "if you can take them. But nothing in Mictlan is simply given. This realm does not exist to please the living or the gods. If you want them, you will face our trials." Quetzalcoatl nodded once, then let them begin. The first was a trial of direction. The Lord of Death instructed Quetzalcoatl, "Take these bones and circle Metlakon 4 times. Return to this place, carrying them all." Now they gave him no map. The plains ahead looked identical, fields of bone fragments and dust, low hills that shifted as if they were breathing. Quetzalcoatl gathered the bones as carefully as he could, bundling femurs, ribs, jawbones, pieces of skull that once housed thoughts and dreams. He carried them in his arms and moved forward. With each step, the land changed. What had been flat became broken. What had been open became choked with jagged stone. He walked until the landscape itself seemed offended by his persistence. A lesser being would have relied on sight. Quetzalcoatl trusted something else. He listened to the patterns of the wind. Even here in the land of the dead. He noted the way the ash moved, the way sound echoed from distant rock. He let those things guide him, subtle markers in a place designed to erase direction. 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 circles, and on the 4th, the ground began to tilt, as if the realm itself were trying to shrug him off. Ridges rose under his feet, gaps opened suddenly. He stumbled, nearly dropping the bones. He tightened his grip and kept moving, not fast, but steady, until he came once again to the place where the Lord and the Lady waited. "You have completed the trial," they said, and they did not sound pleased, but they did not object. Now, the second trial was that of sound. The Lady of Death handed him a conch shell. It was smooth, heavy, and completely sealed. "Blow this as a trumpet," she said, "so that all Mitzlacan hears your call." Quetzalcoatl turned the shell over in his hand. It had no holes, no mouth for breath to enter. A trick, then, he understood. The kind that relies on reflex, that a god insulted by impossibility will lash out, shout back, storm away, or break the object in anger. Quetzalcoatl did none of these things. He placed the shell on the ground. He called the smallest beings of the underworld to him, and worms emerged from the soil, thin bodies slicing over stone. "Open a path," he told them. They bore into this shell, carving tunnels through its inner spirals. Then he called bees, high, bright spirits of the surface world, who still answered his wind-born summons. "Fill it with breath," he told them. They flew into the shell's new tunnels, their wings turning the hollow space into a living instrument. Quetzalcoatl lifted the conch to his lips and blew. The sound that emerged was low and vast, a tone that seemed to roll through Mictlan's bones as much as through the air. For a moment, the dead heard something that did not belong in their realm. The wave of memories, the sweep of air across open land, the echo of a world above. The Lord and Lady of Death glanced at each other again. "You have completed the second trial," they said. Their voices held no warmth. The third trial looked simple. "Carry the bones out of Mexican," the Lord said. "Take them to your living world, if you can, and we will not stop you." He said it kindly, but that was a warning. Quetzalcoatl gathered the bones again, this time aware of how fragile his mission truly was. These were not stones that he could simply replace if dropped. These were the remains of ages. He began the journey upward. The paths were no easier in reverse. The wind still cut, the mountains still moved, but now a new difficulty joined them: other hands. As he climbed, unseen forces jostled him. The ground beneath his feet shifted more violently, not like the natural tremors, but like the hand shaking a table for the pleasure of watching things fall. Birds with obsidian beaks, agents of the underworld, some say, swooped down, pecking at the bones, trying to knock them free. At a narrow ledge above the dark ravine, the assault became too much. One hand struck his arm, one slip, a misjudged step, and Quetzalcoatl stumbled. The bundle of bones spilled from his grasp, clattering across the stone, hell across a roof. Some remained close, others shattered as they hit the ground, breaking into smaller and smaller pieces, rolling in the cracks, falling into the ravine below. It was not a clean drop. This was chaos, clattering loss. The sound echoed through Mitzlacan. The Lord and Lady of Death listened. "Look," they said, "the bones are broken. Humanity cannot be restored. Our records remain intact, but you have failed." Now, in many myths, this is where a god would rage, where the story would become a battle. Quetzalcoatl did not draw a weapon. He knelt. He moved slowly, carefully, collecting what fragments he could reach. Whole bones, half bones, pieces too small to name. His hands shook, not with fear of punishment, but with the weight of what he was trying to hold together. He could not get them all. There would be gaps, missing pieces, parts of former humans lost forever. And he knew what that meant. This humanity would not be perfect. It could not be. And still, he did not stop. When he gathered all that he could, Quetzalcoatl did something that changed more than one world. He wounded himself. He drew a sharp shard of bone across his own skin and let his blood fall into the pile. Now, divine blood, rich with memory and intent, mixed with the broken fragments of ancient lives. He did not sprinkle a ceremonial drop and step away. He bled. The bones drank the blood like dry earth drinks rain, and something moved. Not a god's command, not a clean act of creation that snaps reality from nothing. This was something slower. It was messier, and it was real. Forms began to knit together, not as copies of single perfect design, but as a collage of what was available. It was tall and short, strong and fragile, bodies that would age and tire and break. The Lord and Lady of Death watched, surprised despite themselves. You would do this, they asked? Create a world of beings assembled from broken parts, held together by your own sacrifice? Yes, Quetzalcoatl said. Why, they pressed. Because perfection does not endure, he answered. We've all seen that. But something born from loss understands, even when it does not remember, that life is not guaranteed, and that is what makes it precious. Now, in some tellings, the Lords of Death protest. In others, they simply fall silent. But in all of them, the result is the same. Humanity is reborn again. Quetzalcoatl carried the bones, now living, now potential, back through the layers of Metzlicon, through cutting winds and shifting stone, through corridors where echoes tried to convince him to turn back. He emerged into the world above, into air that did not burn his lungs, into light that did not feel like interrogation. He scattered maize over the ground and taught the humans how to coax food from the soil. He taught them how to mark time so they could remember when the rains would come and when the cold would return. He taught them how to speak, not only to ask and demand, but to pray, to recall, to sing. He did not make them worship him. He did not claim them as property. His blood was already in them, and there was no need to brand them from outside. This is why in these stories, human beings are not invincible, not flawless, and not eternally obedient. They are born from broken bones and a God's voluntary wound. We crack, we forget, we hurt each other, we love anyway. We are not the triumph of divine planning. We are the result of a God who failed the ritual of perfection, refused to accept the failure as the end, and chose to bleed rather than abandon the attempt. That is what distinguishes Quetzalcoatl from gods who only know how to rule with fear. He did not storm Metzlicon to seize a prize. He descended, was tested, fell, and still continued. He did not stand above humanity and issue commands. He knelt among broken bones and gave something of himself so that other people could exist. And when his work was done, he did not stay to sit on a throne over us. He became the wind that moves the unseen, the breath between worlds, the quiet force that nudges seas to sprout, and the clouds to cross a waiting sky. The descent into Mitchland is not just a story about a god going down and coming back up. It is the record of what we were made of: failure, sacrifice, memory, and the stubborn refusal to leave the world empty. The myth of Arachne. Arachne is born in the land of Lydia, the daughter of a humble dyer of wool. She does not come from nobility. She is not taught by priests or temples. But what she has is skill. From a young age, her hands move with quiet certainty. Threads bend to her will, colors settle into patterns no one has ever seen before. Her weaving is not merely decorative, it's alive with detail, balance, and precision. People travel from distant towns just to watch her work. At first, they say her talent must be a gift from the goddess Athena, who is the patron of wisdom and weaving. But over time, as Arachne's reputation grows, people begin to speak differently about her. They say her skill does not resemble a gift. They say it surpasses the goddess herself. Arachne hears the rumors and does not deny them. She says plainly that she owes Athena nothing. She says if the goddess wishes to test her, she is welcome to do so. And Athena hears this. She comes to Arachne not in glory, but disguised as an old woman, leaning heavily on an old weathered staff. Her voice is calm, almost kind. She warns Arachne to show humility, to respect the gods, to withdraw her challenge. But Arachne refuses. She says skill should stand on its own. She says truth does not bow to authority. And then in that moment, the disguise falls away. Athena reveals herself, radiant and severe, and the true contest now begins. Two looms are set side by side. Athena weaves first. Her tapestry is perfect in structure and form. It shows the gods in all their splendor, majestic, orderly, unchallenged. Mortals who defy them are punished. And the message is clear. Power rules, and rebellion leads only to ruin. And then Arachne weaves. Her hands move swiftly, confidently, without any hesitation. And her tapestry tells a different story. She shows the gods as they truly behave. Zeus disguising himself to deceive mortal women, gods abusing power, betraying trust, breaking the very rules they demand others obey. There is no distortion in this, no exaggeration, only accuracy. When the tapestries are finished, the difference is unmistakable. Athena's work is truly flawless, but Arachne's is flawless as well. But Arachne's tells a truth that Athena cannot tolerate. The goddess inspects the weaving closely, looking for an error, but of course she would find none. And in that moment, Athena understands that she is not lost because of weakness, but because of honesty. Enraged, she tears Arachne's tapestry apart. She strikes the girl, destroying the work that exposed the gods. In despair, Arachne collapses. In some tellings, she attempts to end her life, unable to bear the loss of her art and her dignity. But Athena would stop her, not out of mercy, but to deliver judgment. She transforms Arachne into a spider. Her body shrinks, her limbs twist, her fingers become legs, her loom becomes instinct. And finally, the goddess speaks again, in her true form. Arachne will weave forever, but she will never again be praised. Her work will be hidden in corners and shadows. Her name will be remembered, but her voice will be gone. And so the spider weaves, thread after thread, pattern after pattern, silent, persistent, unacknowledged. The gods retain their authority, and the truth remains, but small, overlooked, and easy to dismiss. And the world moves on. Achilles, the warrior death could only touch once. Before there was Superman, before there was Captain America, before storytellers imagined indestructible heroes armed with weapons forged beyond the reach of ordinary man, there was Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Trojan War, a man born from both immortality and divinity, a fighter trained by one of the world's greatest teachers, a champion protected by the waters of the underworld and armed by the smith of the gods. But Achilles was not truly immortal. He was something more tragic. He was a mortal man whose death had been reduced to a single point. This is the mythic power profile of Achilles. Born between two worlds, Achilles was the son of Peleus, a mortal king, and Thetis, an immortal goddess of the sea, and that placed him between two worlds. From his father, Achilles inherited mortality. He could age, suffer, and eventually die. But through his mother, the blood of the divine flowed through his body. Achilles was not an Olympian god. He could not command the sea like Poseidon or throw lightning bolts like Zeus. His divinity expressed itself through his physical potential. His body was stronger than that of any ordinary warrior. His endurance was greater, his movements were faster, his instincts were sharper. Even among the legendary kings and champions who sailed to Troy, Achilles stood apart. He possessed the strength to overpower elite warriors, the stamina to continue fighting through prolonged combat, and the speed to control the distance between himself and almost any opponent. Homer repeatedly called him swift-footed Achilles. That description is more than just a poetic decoration. Speed was one of his defining powers. Achilles could close a distance before any enemy had time to prepare. He could chase down warriors attempting to escape him. He could move through the chaos of a battle with a quickness that seemed to be supernatural. He did not simply strike harder than other men. He arrived before they were ready to be struck. But divine blood does not simply satisfy Tethys. She knew her son was still mortal. She knew that a terrible destiny awaited him, so she attempted to take mortality away from him. Baptized in the waters of death. According to the most famous version of the legend, Tethys carried the infant Achilles to the river Styx. The Styx was no ordinary river. It flows through the underworld, forming a boundary between the world of the living and the kingdom of the dead. Even the gods treated its waters with fear and reverence. When an Olympian swore an oath upon the Styx, the oath could not be broken without terrible consequences. And Tethys took her child and lowered him into those dark waters. She was not bathing Achilles. She was exposing mortal flesh to the power of death itself. Every part of his body touched by the Styx was transformed. His skin became nearly impossible for mortal weapons to penetrate. The ordinary rules governing injury and death no longer applied to him. But Tethys had to hold the infant somewhere. She held him by the heel. The small piece of flesh never touched the water. Everywhere else, Achilles carried the protection of the stick. At the heel, he remained completely human. This was not merely a weak point in an otherwise powerful body, it was his mortal anchor, the one place where death still possessed a claim on him. Achilles had not become completely immortal. Instead, his mortality had been compressed into a single point. That is what made his protection both a blessing and a curse. Against ordinary warriors, Achilles appeared invincible. A blade that would open another man would fail against him. A spear that would end another warrior's life might leave Achilles standing, but his protection was never absolute. Some of the earliest traditions surrounding Achilles did not describe him as physically invulnerable at all. Homer even allows him to be wounded in a battle. The River Styx version emerged more clearly in later tellings of this legend, but myth does not always preserve one clean continuity. Like a modern superhero rewritten across generations, Achilles accumulated different origins, powers, and interpretations, and the River Styx became the explanation that endured. It transformed Achilles from merely the greatest warrior of his generation to a man protected by the boundaries of death itself. But invulnerability alone does not create a great warrior. Power without skill is only potential. To become Achilles, the child still had to be trained. Forged by Chiron. Achilles was placed under the instruction of Chiron, the wisest and most civilized of the centaurs. Chiron was not a mindless creature driven by appetite or violence. He was a teacher, healer, musician, and master of the heroic arts. His students included some of the greatest figures in Greek mythology. Under Chiron, Achilles learned how to transform his extraordinary body into a weapon. He was taught swordsmanship, spearfighting, hunting, running, tracking, survival, battlefield awareness, and the discipline required to control his natural aggression. Chiron also taught Achilles medicine. Achilles learned how to recognize injuries, treat wounds, and preserve life. That contradiction is central to his character. The great killer among the Greeks was also trained as a healer. The hands capable of tearing through armies also possessed the knowledge to close wounds. Chiron even instructed him in music and the playing of the lyre. Achilles was not created as a simple brute. He was educated as a complete heroic figure, warrior, hunter, healer, musician, and leader. The River Styx made Achilles difficult to kill. Chiron made him impossible to defeat. His combat abilities were not the result of magical transformation. They came from a combination of divine blood, supernatural protection, relentless training, and natural talent. Achilles was born with potential beyond that of an ordinary man, and Chiron taught him to use every part of it. The spear only Achilles could wield. Among the weapons of Achilles, none represented him better than his spear. It was fashioned from ash taken from Mount Pelion and presented to Chiron to Peleus, the father of Achilles. The weapon eventually passed from father to son, and this was no ordinary battlefield spear. It was a massive, powerful, and extraordinarily difficult to wield. Its weight alone placed it beyond the ability of most warriors. When Patroclus entered battle wearing the armor of Achilles, he could carry Achilles' other weapons, but not the Pelian spear. The weapon remained behind because Achilles alone possessed strength and skill necessary to properly wield it. The armor could be borrowed. The appearance of Achilles could be imitated, but his spear could not be mastered by another man. In that sense, it functioned almost like a divine weapon keyed to a single hero. It was not simply something Achilles carried, it was the measure of what he was. Anyone could look like Achilles beneath his armor, only Achilles could lift the spear. He also carried a sword and other conventional weapons of war, but the ancient stories do not consistently treat his sword as a unique or divine artifact. The spear was different. It connected Achilles to his father, to Chiron, and to the mountains where his heroic education began. It was the weapon that most completely embodied his strength. The armor of the gods. Achilles possessed not one, but two legendary suits of armor. His first armor had originally been given to his father, Peleus, by the gods. It was eventually passed down to Achilles as part of his heroic inheritance. When Achilles withdrew from the battle during the Trojan War, his companion wore his armor to make the Trojans believe that Achilles had returned. For a time, the illusion worked. The Trojans did not merely fear the armor, they feared the man they believed was inside. But that man was not Achilles, and he was killed, and the armor was taken by Hercules. Achilles had lost his companion, his armor, and the physical symbol of his identity as the greatest warrior among the Greeks. To return to battle, he would need to be remade. Thetis went to Hephaestus, the divine smith of Olympus. Hephaestus had forged weapons, palaces, and artifacts for the gods themselves. At the request of Thetis, he created a new suit of armor specifically for Achilles. A breastplate, a helmet, greaves, and the legendary shield of Achilles. This was more than protective equipment. This was divine craftsmanship. The armor was built by a god to contain the force of a nearly unstoppable warrior. Its appearance projected supernatural radiance and terror. When Achilles entered battle wearing it, he did not resemble any ordinary soldier. He looked like an instrument of divine judgment. But the shield was the true masterpiece. Upon its surface, Hephaestus created an image of the entire human world: the heavens, the earth, the sea, the sun and the moon, cities at peace, cities at war, fields being harvested, people dancing, trials being judged, animals moving through nature. Life, death, celebration, conflict, and order were all carried upon his shield. Achilles entered battle holding the world in front of him. The images reveal something profound about his character. Achilles was capable of defending the human world, but he could never fully belong to it. He carried scenes of marriage, agriculture, law, and community, yet his own destiny offered him no peace among them. The shield of Achilles protected his body, while displaying everything his chosen path would eventually deny him. The power of battle fury. Achilles possessed another power that no armor or river could give him: his rage. The Iliad begins with the anger of Achilles because his anger is not a minor personality flaw. It is a force capable of changing the direction of an entire war. When Achilles refused to fight, the Greeks began to collapse. When he returned, the balance of power shifted almost immediately. His presence alone affected morale. The Greek believed victory had returned with him. The Trojans understood that death was approaching. After the death of his cousin, Achilles' grief transformed into battle rage. He no longer fought merely as a soldier attempting to win a war. He fought like a natural disaster, wearing divine armor. His rage increased his focus, aggression, and willingness to push beyond ordinary human restraint. And this was not a power he completely controlled. Achilles could dominate the battlefield while still being dominated by his own emotions. His anger made him terrifying. It also made him vulnerable in ways the river Styx could not protect. No spear could easily penetrate his body, but pride could reach him, grief could reach him, rage could reach him. Achilles was physically protected from the weapons of any man, yet emotionally exposed by every force that makes humanity dangerous to itself. The choice of Achilles. Achilles eventually faced a choice between two destinies. He could remain away from Troy, live a long life, and eventually disappear into obscurity. Or he could fight at Troy, die young, and achieve a name that would never be forgotten. Achilles chose glory. This decision reveals the true nature of his power. His greatest ability was not invulnerability. It was not speed. It was not strength, armor, or skill with the spear. His greatest power was his willingness to look directly at his fate and walk toward it. Achilles knew the glory would cost him his future. He accepted his price. That doesn't make him morally perfect. Achilles could be proud, selfish, wrathful, and brutally destructive. But mythology did not preserve him because he was perfect. It preserved him because he represented the terrible extremes of heroic existence. He deeply loved. He hated completely. He fought without equal. He chose a short life whose fire would remain visible across thousands of years. Final profile. Achilles was a semi-divine warrior born from the union of immortal king Pele and the sea goddess Thetis. His natural attributes included superhuman strength, extraordinary speed, heightened endurance, powerful combat skills, and a commanding presence. According to later tradition, emerged in the river Styx granted him a near total invulnerability, leaving only the heel by which his mother held him vulnerable. Under Chiron, Achilles mastered warfare, hunting, medicine, music, and the disciplines required of a complete mythic hero. He wielded the Pelean ass spear, an inherited weapon so heavy that no other Greek warrior could properly use it. He wore divine armor forged by Hephaestus and carried a shield upon which the smith of the gods had created the world itself. But none of these gifts could release Achilles from fate. Waters of death could protect his flesh, a god could armor his body, Chiron could protect his skills, but no power could grant Achilles both glory and a long life. He had to choose, and Achilles chose to become immortal in the only way still available to him, not by living forever, but by creating a name that death could never bury. This was the power of Achilles, a warrior protected everywhere except the one place death needed to touch. A mortal man armored like a god, a life deliberately exchanged for legend. The sun hung low, a smoldering orb cloaked in the dusky robes of twilight. Ra's celestial barge had navigated the horizon's edge, now mooring at the confluence of the eternal river and the sea of stars. His divine form shimmered with the remnants of the day's light as he stepped onto the shores of the Netter's hidden abode. Every night he was locked into a life and death struggle with Apep, the great chaos snake. It taxed his great strength, and even he wondered what the outcomes would be each night. He sought to shore up the security of order, to make safe the world for all. So he would consult with his two greatest advisors, Ausar, who was the Netter of magic, and Jehudi, who was the Netter of wisdom. Great Ausar, Ra began, his voice resonating with the gravity of his ages. Apet's malice grows ever more cunning. Her latest spawn, a serpent gifted with a darkness so deep it could devour the dawn. It threatens to unravel the tapestry of creation itself. Ausar, her eyes reflecting the depth of the cosmos, nodded silently. She was the essence of wisdom, her presence an anchor in the tumultuous sea of chaos that threatened to engulf the world. "My Lord Ra," she replied, her voice a soothing melody amidst the cacophony of celestial warfare. "To combat such guile, we require a defender, a being whose nature is attuned to the serpentine form, one who can slither through shadow as effortlessly as light dances upon the Nile." Ra's gaze met her, the spark of creation flickering in his eyes as he weighed her counsel. Within his vast intellect, the cogs of possibility began to turn, crafting the image of his new guardian from the ethereal threads of thought. Jehudi stood by silent and observant, his countenance calm as the surface of a moonlit pool. This Neter, who was the scribe of the heavens, bore an expression that belied the keen intellect beneath his furrowed brow. "Speak, Jehudi," Ra asked, the urgency of his plight infusing potency into his words. "Your insight has often proved to be invaluable." "Lord of Light," Jehudi said, his voice measured and clear, "if balance is to be restored, we must conceive a being not only aligned with the snake, but also capable of outmatching its primal cunning. You must weave for us a creature that embodies the grace and lethality required to stand as your sentinel." Ra absorbed the wisdom offered by his two trusted advisors, his heart quivering with the anticipation of creation. The thought of fashioning a new life form sparked a wildfire within the heart of his soul, a blaze that was yearning to be shaped into existence. "Then let it be so," Ra declared, the firmament echoing his resolve. The air around them thrummed with potential, waiting for the command that would birth a new legend. "Then let us convene the powers at our disposal," Ausar suggested, her gaze piercing the veil of uncertainties. "Together, we shall forge this protector in the crucible of our combined wills, so she may rise as the embodiment of our hope." "Indeed," Ra murmured, his thoughts coalescing into determination. "A new defender would emerge, one whose essence would be as enigmatic as the night sky from which it was born, a champion to stand against the encroaching tide of chaos." In the sanctum of eternity, where time wove its endless dance, Jehudi stood with a presence that seemed to bend the very air with his wisdom. His eyes, reflective as the moon's surface, turned inward as he contemplated the shape of salvation. The silence hung heavy in the air, pregnant with the weight of impending creation. "Let us look at the natural world," Jehudi offered, breaking the stillness, his voice carrying the timbre of ancient tomes. "The snake coils and strikes with lethal intent, yet there exists one who treads upon the snake with innate sovereignty." All eyes fell upon the wise Neter, their gazes wondering at the thoughts in his head. Ausar's lips parted slightly in anticipation, a silent beckoning for the knowledge poised on Jehudi's tongue. "The cat," he pronounced. The word itself seemed to claw its way into reality, sharp and full of primal instinct. Ausar's expression shifted, a subtle play of intrigue and respect. "Yes, the cats are poised, and their elegance belies their ferocity. They hunt with a silence that whispers death itself." "Indeed," Ra murmured, his own thoughts mirroring the night sky, vast and dotted with the stars of possibility. The eye of the cat resonated within him, its potential energy crackling against his divine essence. "Call upon Seshet," Jehudi spoke, his decree resounding like a gravel upon the pillars of the world. "She shall inscribe the blueprint of this life, the sacred geometry from which our defender will emerge." "Her claws will be the bane of scales," Ra envisioned, feeling the stirring of creation ripple within him, a surge of warmth akin to the first rays of dawn. The room quivered with the invocation of Seshet's name, and there she was, appearing as if summoned by sheer force of necessity. Her gaze was as infinite as the library she kept, figure wrapped in robes, scribed with the knowledge of the ages. "Great Seshet, weaver of destinies, architect of cosmic order." Ra addressed her with reverence, the air around them charged with expectations. "We seek to cast a new thread into the tapestry of existence, one that is both of the earth and beyond it." "Speak, O Sun King," Seshet responded, her voice the whisper of papyrus leaves. "Craft for us a being that encapsulates the essence of the cat, a guardian with eyes to pierce the shadow, a hunter to balance the threat that slithers in the darkness," Ra intoned, each word an ember igniting the path of future events. Seshet nodded, her hands poised above the material form that fates were woven. She began the intricate task, each movement deliberate, each symbol imbued with the essence of divine will. As she wrote, the dimensions of the room itself seemed to fold into the narrative that she created. Reality, bending to accommodate the birth of this new legend. Her spirit will be fierce, untamed by the sands of time, Jehudi whispered, his eyes reflecting the image of his imminent savior. Her form, lithe and agile, a testament to the dance between life and death. May her vigilance be unwavering, Ausar added, the slightest smile gracing her lips as she herself envisioned the graceful terror that they were about to unleash on their age-old nemesis. And thus Bastet will come to be, Ra declared. In that moment, all present could feel the shift, a new power stirring, ready to spring forth into the realm of netters and men. Seshet's cosmic pen met the parchment, a mere whisper against its virgin surface. The nib, dark as the void between stars, exuded ink that seemed to pull the very light from the room, swirling itself with potentiality. Her fingers danced with practiced grace, each letter an invocation, each word a layer of muscle and myth. The air crackled in anticipation, heavy with their divine intent. Let her be swift, Seshet murmured, her voice low but clear, reverberating through the chamber like an incantation. As quick as thought, as silent as the night. Jehudi stood nearby, his gaze fixed on the unfolding creation, his mind already weaving the spell into his spellbook. With each stroke of Seshet's pen, he etched the corresponding symbols into his tome, the golden glyphs glowing softly against the ancient papyrus. Her claws shall be the spears of heaven, sharp enough to cleave shadow from light, Jehudi intoned, his voice harmonizing with the scratching of the pen. May she never know defeat, Seshet continued, her hands steady, while her heart thrummed with the weight of what they were about to bring forth. She could feel Bastet's presence taking form, a phantom touch at her senses, a purr resonating within the walls of her soul. Let her eyes hold the green of light, the emerald promise of dawn, Jehudi added, his own eyes reflecting the nascent veracity he imagined. His fingers paused in their meticulous transcription, allowing himself a moment to marvel at the certainty with which Seshet wrought destiny itself. Her fur, Seshet whispered, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. Let it simmer with the darkness of the chaos, an endless night where stars go to play. She felt a shiver of power course through her, the paper beneath her hand now alive with the energy of their collective will. Indeed, Jehudi murmured, resuming his careful inscription. She will be both beauty and terror, a force to reckon with the chaos that coils at our doorsteps. His thoughts flitted to the serpent, Apep, and the dread it inspired in the hearts of men and netters alike. Bastet would be their answer, the counterbalance to entropy's insidious crawl. Let her name resonate through the ages, Seshet said, the final stroke of her pen sealing the birth of this new netter. Bastet, daughter of the sun, shield of Ra, the cat of our creation. Her tale will be told, Jehudi declared, closing his book with a sense of finality. The new spell nestled securely within its pages. And let her hunt begin this very night. The chamber of creation was awash with tension that crackled like static against skin, a place where the very fabric of reality seemed pliable and responsive to the wills of those who stood within its bounds. Atun Ra, the embodiment of the primal force of existence, hovered at its center. His presence was commanding, an anchor to the swirling energies that emanated from his divine form. Within him surged the power of life itself, the kernel of order amidst the encroaching chaos. Let us begin, Ra intoned, his voice resonating through the chamber as he drew forth a scintillating orb from the core of his being. It pulsed like a heart, the rhythm of creation beating within it. A small sun that blazed with wildfire's ferocity, casting shadows that danced frenetically across the walls. Ausar, her eyes reflecting the brilliant glow, stepped forward with a grace that belied the urgency of their purpose. From the breath of Atun Ra, she began, her voice weaving into the tapestry of light. We call forth the defender, the balance to the darkness we seek to devour. Jehudi, ever the scholar, his gaze alight with wisdom of countless eons, joined in the incantation. From the mind of Seshet, we shape the formless into form, he declared, his words an echo of the spirit that now lay dormant within his tone. awaiting for the breath of life. Atum's thoughts focused on the task at hand, the energy within his grasp malleable beneath the weight of their collective intentions. He could feel the pressure of the void pushing back, the unseen menace that lurked just beyond the edges of light. It was a battle fought not with swords, but with the very essence of what they were. The thought of Apep, the never-ending threat, fueled his resolve. This creation must succeed, he urged silently, feeling the weight of destiny on them all. Bind the light to our will, Ra's voice commanded, a fusion of his godly might and mortal determination. Shape it as a hunter, sleek and silent, a shadow against shadows. His words hummed in the air, wrapping around the glowing orb, infusing it with purpose. Let the heart of Atum Ra ignite the spark, Aset whispered, her outstretched hands challenging the nurturing aspect of her divinity, coaxing the wild energy to coalesce into something more tangible, more alive. Let the wisdom of Jehudi guide the spirit, Atum added, the power within him reaching a crescendo as he felt the first stirrings of consciousness flicker within the nascent form. Let the craftsmanship of Seshet give it form, Jehudi uttered, the finality in his tone a testament to the gravity of their creation. Together their voices swirled, a chorus of deific intent that reverberated through the chamber, bending the divine energy to their will. The orb responded, its surface rippling like liquid starlight as it began to stretch, to mold, to take shape under the guidance of these combined nectars. Let this be enough, Atum willed, pouring the last of his energy into the fledgling nectar, willing her into existence. Bastet, the answer to their prayers, the embodiment of celestial might and earthly cunning. She would face Apep this night, and every night thereafter, a guardian against the encroaching dark, born of their hopes and their fears, their power and their wisdom. The chamber of creation thrummed with the power of the ancient deities, a sacred place where stars were born and destinies forged. Within its confines, the essence of divinity itself coalesced, responding to the summoning words of the nectars whose voices wove the fabric of existence. Behold, Jehudi murmured, his eyes reflecting the depth of the universe, the dawn of our protector, the cat of Ra. The orb of raw celestial fire that had pulsed between them now began to undulate with purpose, the blackness of the void knitting itself as it spun by the loom of fate. Aset's lips curled in a silent prayer, her thoughts twinning with the energy, nurturing it with the tender care of a mother for her own child. From chaos, order, from darkness, light, Aset intoned, her voice a melodic thread in the tapestry of spellcasting. Atum Ra, a titan among them, felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like a cloak woven from the night sky. It was a sensation both familiar and unsettling. Each act of creation, a gamble against the entropy that Apep sought to spread. His heart beat in time with the rhythm of the cosmos, a drum heralding the arrival of a new force in the eternal struggle. Let her be steadfast, he whispered to himself, a bulwark against the serpent's wrath. As her incantations reached a crescendo, the shape within the fiery orb crystallized, limbs stretching forth, a sleek body forming from the nebulous energy. Whispers of starlight clung to her form like dew on morning grass, until she stood before them in all her nascent glory. Bastet, the cat of Ra. Welcome, daughter of the sun, Atum's voice resonated with pride and anticipation. Your hunt begins tonight. Bastet's first shimmered, a tapestry of the night sky rendered upon her graceful frame. It was a black so profound, so saturated with the mysteries of the cosmos, it seemed to swallow light whole, only to release it in subtle glints that mirrored the twinkling of distant stars. Her presence filled the chamber, a tangible assertion of life that none could deny. Your essence is forged of the very heavens, Jehudi observed, his gaze analytical, yet not without warmth, a fitting garb for the guardian of Ma'at. Aset stepped forward, the lines of concern etching her face, softening as she beheld the nectar they had brought. In you, Bastet, we entrust the balance of all things. May your vigilance shield us all from the chaos that seeks to devour our world. May my claws strike true, Bastet responded, her voice a purr of determination. Her form was poised, a dancer waiting for the music to begin, the music of battle, of survival, of an unending war waged beneath the vault of heaven. Atum Ra felt the tension ease from his own form, a quiet satisfaction blooming within him. They had created a champion, a divine sentinel. Yet even as hope flickered within him, the shadow of doubt lingered, a reminder that the morrow was fraught with uncertainty. "Tonight you will face the snake," he declared, his tone carrying the gravity of the duty bestowed upon her. "And with each dawn we shall rise again, strengthened by your courage and your skill." In the silence that followed, Bastet moved, a creature of grace and deadly intent, her every motion a testament to the purpose for which she had been birthed. The Cat of Ra, a legend given form, prepared to stalk through the annals of time as protectress of order, her black fur and mantle of the infinite, her will an unbreakable spear against the dark. With the turn of her head, Bastet caught the flickering torchlight in her gaze. It sparkled across the vernet pools of her eyes, igniting them with otherworldly fire that mirrored the fervor of Ra's own celestial flame. The light danced within those emerald depths, casting lustrous shadows over the contours of her face. "Your beauty is not just a gift," Ra spoke, "but a weapon to beguile and distract your adversaries." Bastet inclined her head, acknowledging the compliment and the hidden wisdom within. She knew her allure was as much a part of her arsenal as the claws sheathed within her paws. Moving with fluid grace, she approached her father, her sleek form reflecting the subtle glow of divinity. "Beauty can disarm the strongest foe," she murmured, her voice soft, yet laced with steel. Her thoughts, though veiled from the others around her, spun with strategic precision. "Let Apep gaze upon me and falter," she mused. "Let the serpent be ensnared by vanity before the strike." "Indeed," Atum agreed, watching her with a blend of parental pride and tactical appraisal. "But never forget, it is your spirit, fierce and indomitable, that truly defines you." Bastet's tail twitched in response, a subtle gesture of her readiness and resolve. She envisioned the battles ahead of her, her mind weaving through scenarios, each potential movement etched with clarity. In the silent dialogue within herself, she rehearsed the dance of combat, envisioning the serpent's death with each calculated step. "Let us hope Apep is as susceptible to beauty as he is to venom," Tahuti injected, his tone carrying the hint of an impish smile. "For if charm fails, your teeth and claws shall speak more convincingly." Aset watched, her gaze contemplative, sensing the currents of power converging within Bastet. "And speak they well," she said softly, almost a whisper, yet carrying the certainty of prophecy. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the clash of titans, this eternal struggle between order and chaos. Bastet, however, stood serene amidst a storm of anticipation. Her beauty, ethereal and commanding, was but the serene surface of a fathomless lake. What lay beneath was a warrior's heart, ready to rise with the fury of a tempest. "Then let my presence be both bane and blessing," she vowed, the green of her eyes darkening with purpose. "For I am Bastet, the Cat of Ra, and my radiance shall be the last light the shadow of Apep beholds before the end." "Your adversary slithers in the realm of twilight, cloaked in dread and malice," Atum Ra intoned. "Are you prepared to face the spawn of chaos?" Bastet's response came not in words, but a subtle shift of her stance. She moved with the grace that belied the lethal purpose of every sinew in her body. The green of her eyes reflected the flame's dance, brimming with the predator's focus. She let her awareness expand, imagining the cold scales of Apep, the undulating horde that sought to unwind creation itself. "Preparation is my nature. My senses are attuned to the whispers of scale against stone, a rustle of dark intent amidst the stillness." "Then this will be a testament to your prowess," Tahuti observed, his tone laced with wisdom. "Let the hunt begin, and may the balance tip in the favor of Ma'at." As she listened, Bastet's thoughts weaved through the landscape of her nascent memory, recalling the divine incantations that had breathed life into her form. She was a testament to their combined wills, a guardian birth to counter the serpent's menace. "Tonight you will chase down fear itself," Aset whispered, a breeze that stirred the embers of Bastet's resolve, "and you will emerge as both shield and spear for those who dwell beneath the sun." "Let the stars bear witness," Bastet bowed, her words a velvet caress, that veiled a core of steel. I am the hunt incarnate, the unseen terror of the night. By dawn, the serpent shall know defeat. With a fluid motion, Bastet rose, every movement a testament to her role as a protector, as avenger. Her eyes narrow, now mirrors of the Vernet deep, reflecting a destiny written in the heavens. Go forth, Bastet, Atumra commanded, his voice an ancient rumble that seemed to shake the very earth. Let the darkness tremble at your approach. She prowled toward the threshold of the chamber, where the boundary between the divine and the mortal blurred. There she paused, tail flicking with poised readiness. Her heart was a drumbeat, rhythmic and sure, echoing the pulse of the cosmos. Tonight, she thought, feeling the inevitability of the confrontation coursing through her, I am the balance that tips the scales. Tonight, I am the hunter, and the snake shall be my prey. Pele, goddess of fire, creation, and jealousy. Before the islands had names, before stone remembered the shape of mountains, before land dared to rise above the sea, there was only movement. The ocean whirled endlessly, dark and conscious, and within it traveled a force that refused stillness. Her name was Pele. She was not born in one place. She emerged again and again, from flame, from hunger, from the deep furnace of the world. Pele was fire with intention. Her hair flowed like smoke caught in the wind, black and endless, carrying embers in its wake. Her skin glowed as if lit from within, sometimes warm as sunlit stone, sometimes red hot with fury. Her eyes were not gentle. They burned with the knowing of something older than fear. Where Pele walked, the earth opened. She carried fire not as destruction, but as becoming. Lava spilled from her footsteps, slow and unstoppable, reshaping the world without apology. The sea hissed when she approached, retreating from her heat, recoiling from her will. But Pele was not alone in the world. Beneath the waves, where light dies and pressure rules, dwelled her sister, Namaka. Namaka was the ocean given thought. Her skin shimmered like moonlight on black water. Her hair moved as currents move, slow, heavy, inexorable. Her eyes were deep, ancient, and cold with memory as only the sea could have. Where Pele burned with emotion, Namaka endured with patience. She ruled the deep places, the trenches, the crushing silence, where nothing escapes gravity or consequence. And she resented her sister. When Pele arrived, the sea was pushed back. Where fire rose, water was displaced. Each new land Pele created was a wound in Namaka's domain. To Namaka, Pele was reckless, too loud, too hungry, too disruptive. To Pele, Namaka was suffocating, a force that drowned passion, swallowed movement, and demanded stillness. They were not enemies born of hatred. They were sisters born of opposition. Fire that must move, water that must contain. When Pele first settled, she believed she could build a home. She dug into the earth, carving chambers for her flame, shaping mountains from molten stone. She believed the land would hold her. But Namaka would not allow it. With crashing waves and rising tides, Namaka answered. She flooded Pele's home, cooled her lava, shattered her growing islands, and dragged them back into the sea. Storms followed Pele wherever she lingered too long. Island after island, Pele was driven away. Each retreat hardened her. Each loss sharpened her jealousy, not of her sister's power, but of her sister's stability. Namaka already had a kingdom. The ocean accepted her without resistance. Pele had to fight for every inch of ground. And still, she moved forward. She crossed the sea again and again, chased by waves, hunted by storms, carrying her fire across the dark. What humans would later call volcanoes are the scars of this journey, places where Pele tried to stay and was forced to flee. And then at last, she reached Hawaii, the youngest island, the strongest spine of the stone. Here, the earth did not break beneath her. It answered. Pele dug deep, deeper than she ever had before. She struck the mantle of the world itself, tapping into the planet's heart. Fire surged upward and stayed. Namaka became, again, furious. Waves slammed against the stone, storms tore at the land, but this time the land endured. Fire and water clashed, not to destroy each other, but to define their boundaries. And Pele remained. She claimed the volcano as her body and the island as her spine. She did not rule from the sea or the sky, she ruled from beneath. The people felt her presence in trembling ground, in glowing rivers of lava, in the fertile soil that followed destruction. Pele was not cruel, but she was emotional. She loved fiercely. And when she loved, she gave warmth, growth, and abundance. Forests returned when the lava had cooled. Life sprang that appeared to be dead. The people learned to honor her, to respect her fire, to speak her name with care. Because Pele was also jealous. When she was disrespected, when love was betrayed, when humans forgot the land was alive, her anger rose. Lava flowed without mercy, villages vanished beneath molten stone. It was not punishment, it was correction. Pele did not destroy out of hatred. She destroyed because stagnation is a lie. Fire clears what no longer serves, and creation requires sacrifice. Namaka watched from the deep, no longer chasing her sister, but never forgiving her. The ocean still presses against the land, testing it, reminding Pele that nothing remains unchallenged forever. They are still bound. Fire rises, water answers. The world is shaped between them. Even now, Pele sleeps beneath the islands. Not gone, not silent, but waiting. Because fire never truly rests. The myth of Thanatos and Sisyphus, when death becomes delayed but never denied. Now Thanatos was known as the god who comes softly. In Greek mythology, he is the god of death, not the ruler of the underworld, not the judge of the souls, but he is the moment that life releases its hold. Born of Nyx, the goddess of the night, Thanatos moves without shadow or spectacle. He has no hunger, no malice, no pleasure in his tasks. Where others rage or bargain, he simply arrives. And thus the Greeks have given him the name, the Gentle One. When Thanatos comes, breath slows, pain loses its grip, the body understands before the mind does that the time has come to stop resisting. He does not rush, he does not linger. He closes the distance between life and what follows as quietly as sleep. He moves without sound, without warning, and he does not miss. Enter a king who sees the end coming. Sisyphus, king of Corinth, is not a great warrior or a favorite son of the gods, but he survives by cleverness sharpened into instinct. He listens too closely. He notices patterns others dismiss. He is a man who lives by staying one step ahead of consequence. And at this time, consequence speaks very clearly. An oracle tells him the truth without poetry. His time is near. His thread has been measured, and death is already on its way. And Sisyphus believes this because he has learned that the gods rarely lie. They simply allow you time enough to decide how badly you want to resist. The deathbed. Soon Sisyphus falls ill. His strength leaves him gradually, not violently. He takes to his bed and waits, surrounded by the quiet room that already feels less real. His breath grows shallow, his hands tremble. He knows the sign, and he knows who will come. And so Sisyphus, as always, is prepared. He ordered chains brought to him, fine ones, expertly forged, riddled with magical energy. He studied them as his body studies weakness, rehearsing the moment that he would activate these very special chains. This was not going to be a fight with death, but it was going to be a delay, because Sisyphus had decided that when Thanatos arrives, that he will not go quietly, and thus he is ready. The arrival. Thanatos comes as he always does, not with the sound, not with force, but with a change in the air. The room grows still, not abruptly, but as if the world itself was deciding to stop fidgeting. Shadows soften along the walls. The light dims without fading, settling into quiet, even glow. Harsh edges lose definition. Nothing flickers, nothing strains. Breath slows. The air cools just enough to be noticed. Not cold, not warm, but balanced. Pain loosens its grip. The body, even before the mind understands it, begins to rest. Thanatos does not announce himself. He does not open doors or cross thresholds in the ways that others do. One moment, the space is occupied only by the living. The next, it is shared with a divine creature. He stands at the bedside, unarmed, unhurried, but always certain. His presence does not demand surrender. It invites it. Time feels different near him, not stopped, but resolved. The future loses its urgency. The past releases its weight. There is only this moment, held gently, waiting for resistance to simply fade. This is how death arrives when it is not violent. It is quiet, complete, inevitable. And Sisyphus, watching from his bed, feels the world settle into stillness and smiles. The capture of Thanatos. For a long moment, nothing happens. Thanatos stands at the bed, as he always does, waiting for the final loosening, the breath that does not return, that will no longer cling to things. He never needed to hurry. Mortals always reach the same end on their own. And Sisyphus watches him carefully, but not with fear, with close attention. His body is weak, his breath is shallow, but his mind is awake, moving quietly beneath the stillness of the room. He feels the calm pressing in, the invitation to let go, and it would be easy to accept, easier than anything he has ever done. And yet, Sisyphus speaks. Not loudly, not urgently. His voice barely disturbs the air. "You come gently," he said. "I did not expect that." Thanatos does not answer at all at first. He doesn't need to. But neither does he stop Sisyphus from speaking. Words, after all, cannot delay death. "They say you bind the living," Sisyphus continues, gesturing weakly towards the chains laying carefully beside the bed. "That when your work is finished, no one resists you." Thanatos turns his gaze, not sharply, not suspiciously, but with mild attention one gives to curiosity. "These," Sisyphus says softly, lifting the chains with trembling hands, "are well made, strong and precise. I would understand your work better if I could see how they were used." Thanatos hesitates, not because he is wary, but because he has never been asked. He steps closer, reaches out, and demonstrates, patiently, gently, without urgency. These chains close, smooth and certain, just as they have countless times before. Only this time, they close on him. The room does not explode in chaos. There is no thunder, no scream, no resistance. Thanatos looks down at the chains, then back to Sisyphus, and for the first time, death does not move forward. For the first time, the moment does not complete itself. Sisyphus exhales, a breath he should not have taken. Death has been delayed. The world without an ending. The stillness does not leave the room, but still it spreads. Across the world, something falters. Blades strike flesh and do not finish their work. The wounded linger, unable to cross the threshold. The old remains suspended in pain, waiting for a release that does not come. Battles rage endlessly. Suffering stretches without resolution. Life without death does not become precious. It can become unbearable. And Thanos stands bound, silent, neither struggling nor pleading. He does not rage. Rage would change nothing. He waits, because waiting is also part of his nature. And then the gods begin to notice. Ares frees Thanatos. The world begins to rot from the inside. Wounds do not close, and they do not end. Blood spills without release. Warriors fall and rise again, screaming, locked inside bodies that refuse to finish dying. Battlefields stretch on endlessly, victories never concluding, losses never settling. War becomes noise without resolution. And the god Ares sees it all, because this is his domain, not death, but ending through violence. And without death, even war is meaningless. And Ares descends to earth, not with patience, but with force. Where he arrives, the air tears, the ground shakes. Order does not soften, it breaks. He does not announce himself. He does not ask questions. He goes where the imbalance points him, and he finds Thanatos bound. The god of death stands silent in chains, unchained, uncomplaining. He has waited because waiting is what he does. Ares does not speak to Sisyphus. He does not scold. He does not threaten. He simply shatters the chains. Metal screams as it breaks. The stillness collapses. The air rushes back into motion as if it were released from a held breath. And Thanatos steps free. The room itself exhales, and without a word, death resumes. Across the world, screams cut out. Wounds close by finishing. The old finally find rest. Battles end, not because peace has arrived, but because conclusion has. Thanatos does not thank Ares. He does not linger, he simply continues. And in that moment, Sisyphus is taken. The second defiance. Sisyphus is taken, but not humbled. Even as Thanatos leads him away, his mind is already moving, measuring, listening, searching for the next seam in the order of things. He has already delayed death once. He has tasted the power of interruption, and he believes that he can do it again. Before his final breath leaves him, Sisyphus gives his wife careful instructions. No rites, no burial, no offerings to the gods. His body is to be left unhonored, unmarked, and incomplete. It is a small act of defiance, almost invisible, but Sisyphus understands the system well enough to know that the system is dependent on completion. A complaint in the underworld. In the realm below, Sisyphus does not scream or rage. He simply complains. He approaches Persephone, queen of the dead, not as a rebel, but as a wronged man. His voice is measured, his posture is respectful. I have been abandoned, he says, denied the rights that seal a life properly. I have been sent here dishonored. And Persephone listens, not because she is easily moved, but because the complaint is valid. The dead are owed their rights. Others depend on it. She grants him permission to return, to correct the failure, to ensure that what must be done is properly done. She gives him a temporary mercy. Sisyphus returns to the living world, and then he does not go back. He resumes his life as if nothing has changed. He walks under the sun, he eats, he laughs, he delays, stretching time thin, pretending ignorance. Days pass, and then years, and the gods watch. This is no longer cleverness, this is flat out contempt. When Sisyphus is finally taken. It does not happen suddenly. There is no thunder, no gods descending in fury. no hands reaching from the shadows. One morning, Sisyphus wakes and feels something different. The air is heavier, not hostile, just final. The sun rises but does not warm him. Food has lost its taste. Voices reach his ears a moment too late, as if the world has begun to move on without him. For the first time since his return, Sisyphus feels behind. He walks the halls of his palace and notices how small they feel, how familiar, how finished. He looks at the faces around him and realizes that none of them are looking back in the same way. Time has been moving, and he has not. And then he understands, not with fear, with clarity. There are no tricks left. Thanatos comes again, not bound, not delayed. He arrives as always, gently, precisely, without urgency. The room settles, the edges soften, and breath slows. And this time, Sisyphus does not smile. Thanatos does not accuse him. He does not remind him of past defiance. He simply stands, patient as ever, waiting for the moment to complete itself. Sisyphus looks at him and knows, finally, that this visitation is not a negotiation. He has already spent every allowance. The walk back. There is no struggle. Sisyphus rises where he stands and follows, not because he has accepted death, but because resistance has lost its shape. The clever paths have closed. The seams he once pried open are gone. As they move, the world begins to thin. Sounds dull. Colors flatten. Distances shorten. The living realm does not mourn him loudly. It simply releases him. And for the first time, Sisyphus feels something unfamiliar. Before the judgment. When he is brought before the gods, they do not shout. There is no anger in their voices, no need for it. What Sisyphus has done is already complete. That record is closed. They look at him not as an enemy, not as a hero, but as a man who mistook delay for victory, and they decide his fate without cruelty, without passion, and without precision. The stone. The stone waits at the base of the hill. It is larger than Sisyphus suspected, but not impossibly so, but undeniably real. Its surface is rough, unyielding, cold even in the dim light of the underworld. It does not glow. It does not hum with magic. It offers no hint of meaning. Just wait. The hill rises before him, long and bare. Its slope neither cruel nor forgiving. There is no summit in sight, only the knowledge that one exists. Sisyphus stands there for a moment longer than needed. He studies the incline. He measures the angle. Old habits surface. Somewhere in his mind, calculations begin to form. Pace, leverage, breath. He's still looking for the how. And then he places his hands against the stone. The first push is awkward. His footing slips slightly. The stone resists. Not violently, but stubbornly, as if it had never known movement and sees no reason to learn it. His muscles strain. Breath tightens in his chest. Slowly, the stone begins to roll. For the first time since his final descent, Sisyphus feels effort again. Not pain, not punishment, but effort. The stone moves upward, inch by inch. The sound it makes against the ground is dull and constant, a low scrape which fills the silence. There is no audience, no gods watch, no voice offers commentary. It is just him, the stone, and the hill. And for a moment, a dangerous moment, hope stirs. Progress is made. He adjusts his grip. He finds a rhythm. His steps become more confident. The slope steepens, but he adapts. This is work, and work he understands. Work that rewards persistence. Perhaps he thinks this is not endless. Perhaps there is an end after all. Then the summit comes into view, and with it, the truth. As the stone reaches the crest, its weight shifts. Not dramatically, not violently, just enough. His hands lose purchase, his footing falters, the stone pauses, and then it rolls back. Not fast, not angry, but it returns with certainty. Sisyphus watches it descend, feeling the effort drain out of his body as sound fades down the hill. The ground trembles faintly when he reaches the bottom, settling into place, exactly where it began. Silence returns. Sisyphus does not cry out. He does not curse the gods. He stands at the top of the hill, breathing hard, staring at the empty slope before him. This is when he understands, not that the task is difficult, but that it is perfectly designed. Every push feels like progress. Every failure will erase nothing but effort. Every ascent will teach him that movement is not the same as arrival. The punishment is not the stone, it is the repetition. And after the long moment, Sisyphus returns. He walks back down the hill. He places his hands on the stone again and again, as will be his fate. Epilogue. The hill remains, the stone remains. Time passes, though it no longer matters. Sisyphus pushes, the stone rolls back. The pattern continues unbroken. Above him, the world of living moves on without any notice. Seasons change, cities rise and fall, names are spoken once, then forgotten. None of it reaches the slope where he works, and yet there's no screaming here, no punishment renewed with each ascent, no voice counting failures. Only motion, only breath, only the quiet weight of effort repeated until it loses urgencies. Thanatos does not return to watch. The gods do not observe. They have finished. Sisyphus pushes because the hill is there. He pushes because the stone waits. He pushes because pushing is all that remains. And something between the beginning and the end of the climb, the mind grows quiet. The thought loosens. Resistance fades in a rhythm. Not peace, but stillness. The stone rolls, the hill endures, and the story, like this task, does not end. It simply continues. The origin of the five sons. Now this myth belongs to the Mexica people, often called the Aztecs, and these people understood time not as a straight path, but as a turning wheel. To them, the world did not begin once, nor was it destined to end only once. Creation was an act that could be repeated. Destruction was not a failure of the gods, but a condition of existence. And in this tradition, the world is sustained through balance, and balance is never permanent. When forces fall out of alignment, when power grows too rigid, when knowledge spreads beyond containment, or when the earth itself just grows weary, the age that holds the world comes to an end. What follows is not emptiness, but renewal. The Mexica called each age a sun. A sun is not only the light in the sky, it is the order by which life is arranged. It governs how people live, how the gods rule, and how the earth responds to both. Each sun carries its own laws, its own expectations, and its own failures. Now, according to this cosmology, 4 suns rose and fell before this present age. Each was shaped by a different ruling force, and each ended when the force could no longer sustain the world it had made. These endings were not sudden accidents. They were the natural conclusion of imbalance left uncorrected. Now, the passing of a sun does not mean the death of everything. Life changes form. Memory does not entirely vanish. Traces remain in the land, in the sky, and in the people who come after. And for this reason, the present world is not separate from those that came before it. It is built upon their remains. Now, the current age is known as the 5th age, the sun of movement. It endures not because it is strong, but because it is fed. Its motion is constant, its ground uncertain. Unlike the worlds before it, this sun survives only through continuous offerings, binding the fate of the gods and humanity together in a form of dependence. The 5 suns are not merely stories of the past. They explain why the earth moves, why catastrophe returns in cycles, and why stability must be earned again and again. To understand the suns is to understand that the world is not guaranteed. It is held together by effort, sacrifice, and restraint, and it can be unmade. What follows is the account of those suns, the worlds that rose, the forces that ruled them, and the ways in each one came to its own end. The first sun, the age of strength. Now in this world the earth was firm and unyielding, and the sky hung low, as if watching what walked beneath it. The people of the first sun were tall and powerful, shaped in the image of the force that ruled them. Their limbs were heavy with muscle, their voices carried far across the plains, and their heart did not know hesitation. Now this sun was governed by Tezcatlipoca, the lord of the smoky mirror, whose power lay in dominance and reflection. Under his rule, strength was the highest virtue. To overcome another was proof of worth. To stand unchallenged was to be favored by the gods. The people learned early that this world they belonged to could all be taken away from them. They built no delicate cities, for delicacy was for the weak. Their dwellings were thick-walled and low to the ground. Their tools were heavy, their weapons simple and brutal. What matters was not beauty, but endurance. What mattered was not harmony, but victory. In the first sun, order was maintained through fear. Those who rose to power held it by force, and those beneath them learned obedience through pain. The gods did not intervene to soften the world. They rewarded conquest and silence. Mercy was not taught, and restraint was not admired. The earth at first endured. The forest grew dense and dark. The mountains stood unbroken. Rivers cut their paths without resistance. Life was abundant, but it learned to hide. Creatures of claw and fang thrived, mirroring the nature of the people themselves. The world reflected what ruled it. Over time, the people of the first sun forgot the difference between strength and excess. To dominate was no longer enough. They sought to dominate everything. They hunted not for need, but for proof. They fought not for survival, but for sport. The weak were not protected, and the fallen were never remembered. The gods watched, and the mirror, Lipoca, darkened. The balance that sustained the sun began to strain. Strength unchecked turned inward. The people no longer listened to the earth, nor to the warnings carried by the wind. They believed the world existed to endure them. Then the jaguars came. They did not arrive as an invasion, nor as a punishment announced from the sky. They emerged from the forest, from the mountains, from places where the world itself remembered itself. Silent and patient, they moved as the earth moves, without anger and without haste. The jaguars were not beasts alone. They were the return of the world's will. Where the people struck hardest, the jaguars struck back. Where strength had been worshipped, strength was answered. Villages fell without warning. Paths once claimed by men were reclaimed by claw and shadow. The night grew longer and the ground drank deeply. The people fought as they had always fought. They raised their weapons. They stood their ground. They believed that force could save them. It did not. For the jaguars did not tire. They did not seek glory. They did not rule. They corrected. One by one, the strong were taken. The cries of conquest gave way to silence. The earth closed over what remained. The forest thickened. The mountains stood as they had before. The sky lifted, indifferent. And so the first sun ended. Not in fire, not in blood, but in teeth and shadow. When the jaguars were through, the world was empty of those who had ruled it. Strength alone had proven insufficient to sustain creation. The earth rested, and the gods turned away from what had been made. From the remains of that age, something memory buried in muscle and bone, a warning carried forth into the next world, that strength without restraint will always devour itself. The second sun, the age of wind. The second sun rose in a world that moved. Where the first sun had heavily pressed upon the earth, this new age loosened its grip. The sky lifted higher. The air grew restless. Winds crossed the lands freely, carrying seeds, voices, and memory from one place to another. The world no longer held still. This sun was governed by Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, whose nature was creation, breath, and renewal. Under his guidance, life was shaped not by force, but by movement. Change was welcome. Travel was praised. To remain in one place for too long was to resist the nature of the world. The people of the second son were lighter of body and quicker of thought. They spoke many languages, and none belonged to them for long. Names shifted with age. Borders were not fixed. Knowledge passed easily from one mind to another, carried on like the wind with pollen. They learned to read the sky. Clouds were signals, breezes were messages. The movement of birds revealed paths yet unseen. The people followed these currents, settling briefly before moving on. Their dwellings were temporary, their cities flexible. Nothing was built to last forever because nothing was meant to. In this age, the gods did not rule through fear. They ruled through inspiration. The people were encouraged to learn, to question, and to seek beyond the horizon. Songs traveled farther than armies ever had. Ideas crossed distances faster than any foot could carry them. And for a time, the balance held. But movement left unchecked does not rest. As the people learned more, they began to outpace the gods who guided them. They discovered patterns in the wind that they had not been taught. They followed currents that led beyond paths the gods had laid out. They asked questions that did not return to their makers. The world grew wide and thin. Communities scattered, lineages burned, memories fractured into many versions of itself. What one group knew, another reshaped. Truth became fluid. The gods found it harder to gather the people's attention, harder to anchor belief in one single form. Quetzalcoatl watched as his creation shifted. The wind that once connected all things began to separate them. Without stillness, there could be no center. Without a center, the world could not hold. The signs appeared quietly. Winds shifted without patterns. Storms crossed paths and tore at one another. The sky spoke in voices that contradicted themselves. The people felt it, but did not stop. The movement had become their nature. Then the wind rose. Not a single storm, but an unraveling. Currents pulled against one another. The air thickened and twisted. The ground itself seemed uncertain, which was always going forward. The people were lifted, scattered, and changed. Some were carried so far that they were never seen again. Some were transformed by the force of the wind, reshaped into beings of air and motion. Some simply vanished, absorbed into the endless sky. There was no battle, no moment of resistance. The second sun did not fall, it just dispersed. When the winds were settled, the world was quiet and vast. The past, once traced by feet and memory, had been erased. The land remained, but it was empty of those who roamed it. Quetzalcoatl withdrew, carrying with him the knowledge that freedom without grounding dissolves its own foundation. From the second sun remained a lesson carried forth unseen, that movement must be balanced with return, and that knowledge uncontained would scatter a world beyond recovery. The third sun, the age of fire. The third sun rose in brilliance. Light filled the world in ways it had never done before. The sky burned clear and high, and the day stretched long and bright. Where the second sun had scattered, this age gathered. Heat brought focus, fire brought purpose. The world sharpened itself. This sun was governed by Tlaloc, Lord of Rain and Fire, whose power lay in release and restraint of energy. Under his domain, the forces of nature were no longer distant or mysterious. They were observed, measured, and invoked. The people of the third sun learned to command fire. At first, they used it to shape their world gently. Fire hardened clay and strengthened tools. It brought light to the night and warmth to the cold. With it, the people built cities that endured and rituals that bound them together. The world grew ordered and efficient. But fire teaches quickly. Soon the people learned not only to tend fire, but to draw power from the heavens themselves. They read the sun's movements, the heat of the earth, hidden force within stone and storm. Rituals grew precise. Offerings became calculations. Knowledge was recorded and refined. And this was an age of mastery. Now these people believed understanding granted permission. Each discovery led to another. Each boundary crossed revealed a new source of strength. The gods watched as people reached, pulling energy into forms it was never intended to last. The world glowed. Cities shone against the horizon, alive with light even after the sun had set. The night no longer belonged to the stars. Fire had claimed it. The people celebrated their control, believing themselves aligned with forces that shape creation. But fire does not forget its own nature. As power accumulated, restraint diminished. What began as harmony shifted towards excess. Rituals demanded greater energy. Structures required constant feeding. The people no longer asked whether something should be done, only whether it could be. And the earth began to strain. The skies darkened with heat. The air grew heavy. Rain fell unevenly, either absent or overwhelming. The signs were visible, but dismissed. The third son had taught people to trust in power, and power had not yet failed them. Then fire returned from above. The sky opened, and the flame fell upon the world like judgment without voice. Not a single blaze, but many. Burning rain that struck cities and fields alike. The structures that had drawn so much energy became conduits for destruction. Stone cracked. Metal warped. The light that had once illuminated the night consumed it instead. The people fled, but there was no refuge. Fire traveled faster than thought. What had been mastered now ruled. The world burned with force it had been taught to release. There was no correction, only consumption. When the flames at last faded, the land was blackened and silent. The cities were reduced to ash. The knowledge that had once seemed eternal had vanished like smoke. The third sun ended in brightness too intense to endure. From its ruin remained a warning carried into the next age, that power without restraint accelerates its own end, and that mastery mistaken for wisdom invites destruction from the very forces it commands. The fourth sun, the age of water. The fourth sun rose into a world that mourned. After the burning of the third world, the earth cooled and softened. Ash settled in the soil. Scars filled with water. The sky